Chapter 11. Another pastime to while away the boredom was the patient's endless speculation on the professional and personal lives of the psychiatrists and medical officers on the ward. The most curious assortment of individuals practice in the field of psychiatry, some rivaling and even outdoing their patients in oddball status. I've met many of them because another characteristic of psychiatrists is that they often don't stay in one place for long, and continuity of care is nigh on impossible for service users to obtain. I chuckle when I recall the tall, black African doctor who, in a fit of honesty, confessed to me that he preferred spending time with his Labradors than with his patients, and the pasty English psychiatrist who was always wearing a black tie with little pink pigs all over it. Some of the doctors have fallen into local legend. One of our female doctors was a very colourful character who did actually stay in psychiatric practice for many years and was at the top of the district's mental health food chain. Retired now, in her practice she was a flamboyant dresser with a penchant for the untamed use of cosmetics. She had a lovely heart but was weird as a fish at times, and there was always rumour and speculation on the part of the clients about what was really going on with her. A memorable tale associated with this doctor involved her friendship with a new psychiatrist to the region, Dr. Linda Astor. She and Astor shared a love of clothes and finery and could be spotted out shopping together in their spare time. It came as a surprise to many when Dr. Linda Astor was exposed for not being Linda Astor at all, but rather the Polish transgender Dr. Zbigniew Podobiuk, complete with suspect qualifications, dodgy immigration status, fraud convictions in the United States, and an enormous steroid habit. She had been at the centre of controversy in her brief tenure at another New Zealand hospital, where she had released a patient detained under a compulsory treatment order. He then murdered his partner. Astor Podobiuk was pursued mercilessly by an embarrassed hospital hierarchy and the local police as she fled the country, taking our psychiatrist's reputation down a notch or two with her. The irony of this story is that Astor's patients adored her. By all accounts, she had an excellent bedside manner and showed a level of compassion and understanding that real doctors could do well to emulate. I never had the pleasure of meeting Linda, but I do remember a story from when she first started practicing in Nelson. My stepmother's mother spent her last years in the local psychogeriatric ward, and one day my father and stepmother went to visit her. Dr. Astor had just started working there, and I got a phone call later from Dad. He told me about the new psychiatrist assigned to his mother-in-law. She was lovely, he said, really good with the patients, but, he added, she's got very large hands. It is not my intention to be entirely critical of the mental health system. After all, my own actions had played a significant role in my ending up there. It seems obvious in hindsight, but the truth was that until now I genuinely had no idea that smoking dope on a daily basis could be harmful. Lots of my friends did it, they seemed okay, and we all felt that we were enlightened beings by eschewing chemical drugs and using only the natural herbal product that was cannabis. Hey, it was probably even healthy. It was widely believed among my circle of friends that cannabis use was harmless, a victimless crime, and we were ardent supporters of decriminalising it so we could fulfil our lifetime ambitions of being able to pop down to the dairy and pick up the day's supply with the newspaper and a bottle of milk. I still wasn't fully convinced that dope was addictive either. I knew it intellectually. After all, I'd spent time recently in a rehab centre. Why else would you go there? But the cloak of denial is a powerful and dangerous thing. I left hospital after 10 of the most revealing and confronting weeks of my life, finally with a bit of emotional stability. I was still on a fair whack of psychiatric medication, but I'd been dragged out of the abyss for the time being, and I had a second chance at life. So what did I do with it? I decided to reward myself. And what was my favourite reward? You guessed it. I invited my old buddy cannabis back into my life. I can remember the thought process that went on. It went something like this. Well, now that I'm not so depressed anymore, I should be able to handle it. And I won't smoke it every day again. No, that would be foolish. But just the odd smoke here and there. After all, I've been to hell and back, and I deserve it. Within a couple of weeks, I was smoking every day again. Yes, it turns out that cannabis is addictive. Maybe not for everyone, but it is for me. All my rationalisations and worthy intentions to control my using went out the window the moment I allowed myself that first smoke. It felt so good, especially on top of all the psych drugs. I felt like after the past year of being clean that I'd finally come home to myself. I was back together with my one true love. I was released from hospital in November. The memorable part of that summer was a car trip around Northland with my ex-partner, now a friend. This trip was something we'd always wanted to do together, and it had been held out to me as a carrot whilst I was in hospital. You need carrots when you're in the bin. Having incentives to get well can keep you going through the tough times, and I needed to feel that there was something positive in the future that lay ahead. I had to curb my dope smoking on the journey, though. My ex was still largely abstinent after seeing what had happened to me, and she didn't think much of me walking back into the lion's den. I had become the salutary lesson for some of the people that knew me, and neither wanted a return to that old cycle of miscommunication that had done us in already. Sensible. The saving grace on the holiday was that I hadn't been able to bring a stash with me. I had enough weed for a couple of joints, and that was it. After a few days of being preoccupied with running out, I was able to let it go and enjoy the trip. But it was to be 7 more years before I took another serious shot at giving it up. The paradox over this time was that even though my cannabis addiction was harming me, on a day-to-day level it gave me something to live for. I had no idea where I was going in my life. Both the recent and distant past were not places I wanted to dwell, and the present was a painful reminder of what I had been through over the last couple of years. Here I was, an adult, university educated, having lived my own life for years, and somehow things had gone full circle. At 26 years old, here I was, living with my mother and trying to relearn how to do life. But I loved being stoned, and as long as I knew I could stay that way, my reason for living remained intact.